Morning. Good morning, good afternoon, or hello, wherever you are.
Yeah, I'm in Taiwan.
I am in Poland, and please write in the comment below where you are viewing it from. But yeah, I'm chatting with Cole Fogle today, and Cole is my dear friend from Canada, but he lives in Taiwan. And just a short backstory how we met. We met on a meditation retreat back in 2018, and then we reconnected during my honeymoon, and we also recorded a conversation, which is on a Cole's YouTube channel, and now he's returning a favor, if I could say that, and we're just reconnecting again in a podcast uh, conversation style. And Cole, how are you today? First of all, let's start with the basic one.
I am doing well. My Canadian Blue Jays team just lost the World Series, so I'm a little bit sad about that. But these things, life goes on. I'm good
Sure,
though.
perfect. Good to hear that. And I want to say that the specific of my YouTube, my small YouTube channel, is a little bit different than yours.
Mhm.
Here, there is no time constraint, no time limit, and I know it is. There is a different goal, different intention, and I want to dive as deep as possible,
Yeah.
whichever feels comfortable. And we're both interested in certain topic that are mm, related with what is our meaning, why we get up from bed in the morning, and how we want to live good life, basically. And you could call it in a very basic way, or you could try to find some, um, big words. But it is what it is. Every day is the same. Kind of, we're looking for some sort of direction. Even if we are not thinking about it, we are looking for a direction. So maybe we could start by, like, in your words, introducing um, your direction so far. So, what were the main, let's say, challenges you had to face? What was your environment that was influencing your direction? And how did you end up where you are as of now in your current moment, sad because of Blue Jays loss?
Well, I realized that everything is an illusion. I realized that whatever's important to you is just because you place importance on it. So I'm sad that the Blue Jays lost, but at the same time, I congratulated my friends that were cheering on the other team because I know that, I mean, if you believe in parallel realities, which I was just thinking about today, they won in another reality. I'm just experiencing the reality where they lost, so it's okay. It doesn't change my love for the team, and it doesn't really change whether my life is good or bad right now. It's just, I think it's kind of with the Blue Jays, it's a nostalgia thing, like you just want to see your home team win. It's just an exciting, with like with any sports, but in the end, everything is kind of a distraction in a way, and nothing in the realm of sports or entertainment really matters that much from my perspective. A lot of these things are distractions, but I choose to be distracted by those things sometimes, like my home team playing baseball. It's a chosen distraction, but I'm always aware in the back of my mind that all the things that are happening around me, they don't really matter that much, unless I choose to make them important, I guess you could say. But I guess your question was like, when did I, in my own words, when did I become kind of into spirituality? Is that kind of your question? Like,
Not only. I would like you to also include that part. But
yeah.
even starting from the basic, like, I grew up in Canada,
Oh,
and
okay. Like a
I was
background.
like,
Yeah.
if nothing well, not even extraordinary, but let's say our baseline
Mm.
is, the most predictable the least surprising kind of
Yeah,
life you could choose, you know. So you go
yeah,
to school, you have a family, you go to
yeah.
school, you go to university, you meet your wife at the university, you work in the same job, or let's say two jobs, then you retire and
I got
you
what you
die,
mean.
you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So what
yeah.
what
So,
what
so
what happened?
that was my life, like everyone else's at the beginning. I mean, I think so. The way I perceive this question is, at what point did I have the realization that there was more than just this life, and these are my parents, and this is my sibling, and this is my day to day of waking up and doing whatever I'm doing? When did okay, so I guess to start with, I grew up in Toronto, Canada, which is where my baseball team is from. And I actually didn't pay attention to baseball for about 32 years. We won the World Series 32 years ago. And then we recently got into the championships. I got excited again, basically. It was almost like stepping into the portal of my 16-year-old self, having an opportunity to experience that feeling again. And so I think that was where the interest lay for me when it came to the baseball. But I grew up in Toronto, Canada. I guess with a typical kind of middle class family, I guess. My father was a florist who owned a flower shop, and my mother was a teacher, a French teacher. And I went to school like other kids, from elementary school. And I remember struggling in school actually as a kid. I remember feeling like I didn't really fit into the school
Mm,
system. That was probably the beginning of my suffering, and I think suffering we can talk about later is a doorway into presence, isn't it? Really, like when you get you suffer, and then eventually you realize that suffering is just kind of a stepping stone to something else. I mean, hopefully you realize that. Not everyone does, but I struggled in school. I was a very challenged student. I was put into a special education class, which is that for kids that learn differently. So they felt like, okay, he doesn't fit into the box like everyone else, so let's put him in the special education class. But there is kind of the beginning of I'm using the term spiritual awakening, but it's not real. I don't really want to call it spirituality, but for the purpose of conversation, I had the beginning of my spiritual awakening, although I didn't realize it at the time, was that I was in a different kind of school setup to the rest of my friends. I was put into special education, and so the teacher was more gentle, and the teacher was more flexible to my needs and the way I needed to learn. And so it allowed me to be within the education system, but in a different system within that system that allowed me to use my Cole brain in a healthier way instead of being in the regular program where they would say, "What's wrong with you? Why are you thinking this way?" I was able to I guess grow in the most optimal way for myself. But I had a lot of kids making fun of me that I was in special ed, and I was still very much in my ego and still very much, I want to be like everybody else. So for most of my childhood, I felt like I was kind of a stupid person and that there was something wrong with me and that I didn't learn because I didn't learn like everyone else. That made me kind of stupid. And I think for many years, I held on to that belief that I was stupid and not as intelligent as other children. And then things shifted in me, and I realized that that was almost like a superpower, being able to perceive reality differently
mm.
because of the special ed that I was put in. It allowed me to be less programmed by the typical reality that most people are programmed in. So I guess that was the beginning for me. But I went through years of I guess anxiety and depression and just not feeling like I don't fit in many different settings. And then somewhere in I want to say it was probably after I was married, so it was like many years later, I found that the book called The Secret, which you've probably heard of. And that book was like that was kind of a big opening in my reality where I started looking at the powers that we can have as human beings, how you can manifest things and how you can shift your reality, you know, in a positive way. The secret. And then from there, I read Eckhart Tolle, The New Earth. That was probably somewhere in 2007 or 2008. And then after I read The New Earth, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now is his, I think, his famous one or his popular one. There was just a full shift in me where I realized and I still fall into ego even now in 2025. So it's not like I am without ego or I don't get trapped in drama or whatever, but I always have this background understanding that I am not my body, I'm not my mind, I'm the experiencer of everything. There's
Mm-hmm.
always somewhere in the background that understanding that this thing that we call life is not what we once thought it was. It's more powerful than that. And we are here to have an experience. And I guess whenever I do get caught in the drama, at some point, I bring myself back to the reminder that I am just here to have an experience.
Mm-hmm. And let me just ask you, you were already in Taiwan?
When I discovered kind of the Eckhart Tolle and
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
I
yeah.
was actually in Vancouver. Actually, the secret I discovered my last year living in Toronto,
Okay, yeah. So okay, so
and then
we
I,
didn't miss
yeah,
your
no, and
move.
then
Yeah.
from there I moved to Vancouver, Canada, where
Mm-hmm.
I discovered Eckhart Tolle,
Mm-hmm.
and then from Vancouver I moved back to Taiwan. So I should clarify that I
Yep.
lived in Taiwan in 1999
Yep.
when I was 20 or 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was I had just to get into that context of why I'm in Taiwan. I was living with my grandmother. My parents are divorced, which obviously caused a lot of stress in my life, as many people who come from families that are not together. And my sister was living in Taiwan. My grandmother that I was living with had passed away, and my girlfriend that I was going out with had broken up with me. So I was kind of in a state of rock bottom, and I was about 21 years old, and I my sister called me from Taiwan. She was here teaching English, and she said, "Hey, why don't you come, experience Taiwan? Maybe, maybe you could teach English here and
Mm-hmm.
have an adventure here." And so in 1999, I came to Taiwan, and it was an adventure. But I got homesick again, and then it brought me back to Canada. And I moved kind of back and forth Taiwan, Canada for quite a few years. Even after meeting my wife, I dragged her Taiwan, Canada, and then I had my first child, and I dragged him Canada, Taiwan. So I was always in a state of the grass is greener on the other side. Like I never felt, from the point that my grandmother had passed away, I never felt a feeling of safety. Like I didn't feel
Mm-hmm.
safe unless I moved. I felt like I needed to move to feel safe, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And so, uh, when, when and how did you finally settle in Taiwan?
So I guess two things. I mean, number one, I we had our first child, and I still moved back to Canada. But when Canada didn't work out, after about a year, we moved to Taiwan, and my wife actually said, I don't want to move anymore because
Mm-hmm.
moving is exhausting, packing up bags and moving back and forth. It's quite draining emotionally. So I kind of forced myself to try to stay put in Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
And then from about 2010 to about 2013, we stayed in Taiwan. And then I said, "Oh, baby, can we move back to Canada?" And in 2014, we moved back to Canada for 1 year. But it was a blessing because my other grandmother, it was her final year of life, and she lived to be 100 years old. And we were there for her final year of life, so I got to spend time with her, and that was very beautiful. And from 2014 till now, I've been in Taiwan since then, basically.
Mm-hmm.
As staying put, I've been here since 2014.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Thank you. And like, do you sometimes, mm, I don't know, perhaps regret is not the correct word, but maybe mm, like think how would it work out if you stayed in Canada instead of Taiwan? Are you grateful for living in Taiwan, or do you have like
Yeah.
second thoughts, or how do you assess
At,
this from the current perspective?
yeah. So at one point, I felt that I had a kind of love-hate relationship with living here, where I did feel like, oh, maybe, and this was the whole feeling like if I when I'm here, this isn't the right place, and when I'm there, this isn't the right place. Um, Now I do not feel that way. Now I feel like I'm in the right place.
Mm,
Um, and what I guess what I was going to say was, I think it was around the point, my sister kept saying, like the definition of insanity is you keep moving expecting a different result.
mm, yeah, yeah.
And what I realized is you can't run from yourself. It's very, I know it's cliche or whatever I'm saying. People speak this way. You can never run from yourself. Whether I'm in Canada, there I am, and whether I'm in Taiwan, there I am. And it was when COVID hit, when the pandemic hit in 2020, and then the border shut down and Taiwan kind of shut down, that I was forced
Mm-hmm.
from 2020 till about 2023 to not travel and literally stay just here for three
Mm-hmm.
years without any traveling. And the pandemic for some people was an awful time. And for me, it was kind of my final, I shouldn't say final, because I think awakening is something that happens in layers and layers and layers. It was a big awakening point in my life where for some it was misery, and for me, it was a blessing, the greatest blessing when that pandemic happened, because it forced me to allow myself to accept where I am,
Mm,
who I am, all of that stuff. Like it was just and that's when I started my YouTube channel, was in
mm-hmm.
2020. I got this
Mm-hmm.
idea of making a video every day for a year, like a 1 year challenge. And so that also kept me distracted from all the craziness that was going on in the world. And so the channel was a beautiful distraction, and it was kind of like I didn't really want to be an English teacher anymore. I am still teaching, but I teach less hours than I used to. I wanted another way. I wanted to find another way to live outside of just being an English teacher, and that's when I started the YouTube channel in 2020. So a lot of beautiful things kind of shifted for me in 2020. But I guess the awakening was just looking at the news and looking at politicians and looking at just seeing kind of the illusion of politics and the illusion of world events and things going on, realizing, that life is so much more than these things that are in front of us. I don't know how to explain it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Just
yeah. I
just kind
think.
of the awakening of the illusion or the holographic reality that we live in.
Mm-hmm. I always like to use as specific language as possible, and perhaps even as more down to earth language as possible. So would you agree that maybe a good simplification of what you are trying to express is that uh, it doesn't affect us that much?
No, that was the realization I came to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, the
Is
news is a wonderful place to scare yourself.
definitely. Well, it is also a source of information,
Right.
but it's so easy to be caught up in it, and like you hear the news about the
Yeah.
war, and you feel like you are
Yeah.
there, but
You're
you're
there.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you're not, unless
and
you're actually directly in. one of the wars going on. It's really something happening, but
Mm,
you're part of it, like in the sense that you don't want it to happen. Like
sure.
war is terrible, but what can you really do other than just try
Exactly.
to improve your own existence in those
Exactly. Yeah.
situations?
Exactly. And would you agree that it is worth for at least for a good of society, on an individual level, to stay up to date on at least a certain level of awareness of what's going around you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you
So.
want to know, you also want to know, even if you don't, whether you believe or don't believe in the things they're talking about, you want to know how other people, which is
Mm,
most people, look at the world so that you know how to navigate the world.
sure. Absolutely.
Whether
Absolutely. Yeah.
you agree with what's going on or think it's true or not true or any of that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you need to know how is the world and society reacting to it so you can be prepared for how you need to be in those
Mm-hmm.
situations.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, I remember we talked about it in Taiwan after our recorded conversation in a coffee shop with my wife as well,
Mm.
about the sanity and insanity. I remember you said that also. And I remember I also quoted one of my favorite artists who said that something, I will translate it. We're looking for a change, but all we change is a postcode. and
Right.
and in terms of sanity and insanity, would you agree that also it's a simplified version, um, that there is insanity on both spectrum, even using the example you mentioned, um, being like having an interest of what's going around you, that one level, one spectrum of I mean, one side of insanity is, mm, like not caring about anything around you and feeling like it doesn't affect you at all. And there is another border, uh, when you think all you think about, like you don't care about your own life because you only care about the news, and like you are living outside, and the sanity is somewhere in between. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah, well, what I was going to say was like whether you're someone who follows mainstream information like the
Mm,
news or
yeah.
you're someone who follows conspiracy
Yeah.
theories, reality is somewhere in the middle of those things. I
Yeah.
100% agree with you. And what I
Awesome.
realize is like it's like as human beings, we have this need to be part of a group, whether
Mm,
we're part of the mainstream group or the conspiratorial group. It's like we need to be part of. And what I realized is I don't want to be part of either of those.
sure. But I think it's like a very basic human need to
Hmm.
want to be part of the group.
Of course,
and
yeah,
and I'm glad you said that, because I also want to be a part of the group. And even our conversation and my desire to share it with other people, even with like maybe few people, is also a matter of my desire to be part of the group, to be part
hmm.
of the group where, like, in which we are able to have a civilized, respectful
Yeah. Okay, that's right.
conversations,
Yeah, yeah,
communication, that you are actually able to listen. You are
100%.
actually kind of curious of what I want to say, rather than hearing first few words and then
Yeah,
just waiting for me to shut up, waiting for the space where you want to share your thoughts, whatever we are talking about. It's like, I have so many experiences with people that, they don't really want to engage in a conversation. They just want to talk. They want to express their unprocessed thoughts and unprocessed emotions, and they don't care about you. And another thing is, like, it's not really about lack of respect. It's a matter of lack of awareness.
yeah.
They are not, it's not a matter of ill will.
Agreed.
I'm sure you share that experience as well, yeah?
Yeah, well, I'm at a point now where I can tell I have enough emotional intelligence now that I can tell when I'm talking to you, for example, versus talking to someone, let's say, who's very stuck and rigid in how they look at reality. For many years, I got myself into so much trouble getting into pointless debates with people who only like their thought was not going to change And at the time, my thought wasn't going to change, and it's just like, like hitting heads, butting heads against each other. And now I realize, okay, so with you, I can talk this way, and with you, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
love you,
Mm.
the human being, whether I agree or disagree with what you're saying. I'm not going to fight with you about it, because if I fight with you about it, I'm lowering my frequency and I'm lowering your frequency too. And if my desire is for everyone to be in a state of love towards one another, if I fight with you about your belief that is different from mine, then there's no point.
Mm.
If I can have a
Abs-
conversation like you said, then
mm.
that's beautiful, and I can hear what you think and you can hear what I think. And at the end of the day, if we don't agree upon things, that's also okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely.
we
Well,
can speak in a loving way. But I think certain subjects are very polarizing. Like politics is very
sure,
polarizing. A
sure.
lot of the COVID-19 stuff was very polarizing. Um, it's just like there are some, like, religion is polarizing. There are some strong topics that I think as
Mm-hmm.
soon as you go into them, I start to feel this almost like anxious feeling in my legs. I can feel it starts in my leg. It's an actual energetic feeling. It goes into my legs and then it starts moving up. And
Mm-hmm.
then at that point, I know, okay, I'm not helping you anymore. And you're like just certain topics are so like I would like to get to a point, I think is what you're saying, where we can talk about those things without fighting about them.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
I
And
don't
mhm,
know. I think we're getting there in reality, but I don't know if we're quite there yet. But we're getting. I
sure,
believe we will get there at some point.
absolutely. And 1 degree is where we can reach to the point where we actually disagree,
Hmm.
and there is a point much earlier whether we actually know what the other person is saying, what they are thinking. Because very often I can feel that we think that we disagree with each other and we fight over a certain topic, but we like I think I understand that they are thinking very similar things, but they are arguing over some small detail that doesn't really matter in the
Yeah.
big picture, you know.
There's fear on both sides.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But at the end, what does everybody want? We want to be loved, and we want to feel safe, and we want to be understood. Everybody wants the same thing, I think, or I should say, most people want the same
Mm,
thing in the end, right?
absolutely. And I think it's a matter of, uh, like maybe what is your take? Why people are mm, afraid to stay curious, and why do we take personally that somebody doesn't agree with us, you
Yeah.
know? Why is that the case?
Because I think with certain things, like let's talk like here, one big conspiracy theory. Many people believe the moon landing was happened. There were people that lived through it. They watched it on TV, they heard
Mm-hmm.
it on the radio, and they say no, it happened. And there are now people that have the thoughts about conspiracies that it didn't happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so to the people who believe that it did happen, you are basically attacking their very belief on reality by
Mm-hmm.
telling them that it didn't happen. And it is scary if you're the person that believes whatever that thing is to be true. I'm using the moon landing because it's a good one, because a lot of people get very emotional if you know, I don't, there's so many videos out now that talk about it happened, it didn't happen. It's a very polarized topic, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's attacking the very fabric of what they believe to be reality. And
Mm-hmm.
so if they're wrong and that didn't happen, then it makes them go, oh wait, then what else didn't happen? It makes them
Mm.
literally go in, that they would go crazy
Yeah.
because everything that they thought was true isn't true. And I'm speaking hypothetically. I'm not saying the moon landing happened or didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't there. I want to assume it happened the way people think it happened. But the point I'm trying to make is you're going against reality. to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and so
And
for someone like myself, if you start talking
mm,
about conspiracy theories, I love going down rabbit holes, and I'll be like, oh, okay, that is possible that that
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
didn't happen that way, and I'll be interested and almost excited about it, right? And
mm-hmm,
at the end of the
mm-hmm,
day, maybe it didn't happen, maybe it did, but it doesn't really matter, really.
mm-hmm.
It's not. It doesn't really affect me as a being that's having an experience.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of people it's testing their very reality of what they think to be true or not true, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very scary for a very large chunk of the world to go outside of their comfort zone and even humor the idea that something they thought to be true wasn't true, or a way of living that they thought was the right way to live isn't the right way to live. You know,
Absolutely.
it's
Absolutely.
testing people's like belief system is
Yeah.
very, very powerful. I think
Absolutely.
that's something that shifted in me when I had kind of an awakening
Mm,
is that I no longer have a concrete belief system
mm,
anymore. There's
yeah.
nothing that anyone can say,
Mm,
maybe at least 99% of anything anyone could say, unless you start attacking my family, and then I might get sensitive, but that's because, the ego wants to protect its family, But
mm-hmm.
there's very little anyone could say that would make me fight with them about it
Sure.
anymore. Because I
Absolutely.
realize that everything I know to be true could be false,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
or
Could be.
everything that I think is false could be true.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
so it's a very it's a peaceful place to exist, but
Mm-hmm.
it can be a lonely place to exist when those around you are still very rigid and caught in their belief systems.
Beautifully said. Really beautifully said. I
Yeah.
really love that. I really love that. Highly resonating. And I wanted to ask you, well, I wanted to ask you about how you got into meditation, but basically based on how you described your journey and the changes of directions. The question, how did you get into meditation, almost doesn't make sense because it's so obvious, right? And I could easily connect it with that concept of looking for your identity and mm, and maybe question your identity because your experiences in the like in your early life that you mentioned are pretty much what could be described as questioning your identity. And it was terrifying. It was creating a lot of tension, a lot of suffering based on what you said. And
Yeah.
that is pretty much, from my perspective, the equivalent of,
Mhm.
you know, being triggered in your adult life that what you believe about yourself and what you believe about the world around you is wrong. And you as a child, you already experienced that. Would you
Yeah.
agree with that?
Yeah. Well, as a young child, I felt like consistently wrong with how I learned and how I processed information because of, being put in a special education class. It
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, this is where you get sent if you're one of the stupid kids. It
Yeah.
felt like that. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize it was a superpower until much, much, much later in life.
Mm-hmm.
It was the superpower of not being programmed like everyone else. That was
Yeah.
the superpower.
Because right now I get this thought that maybe the words will not sound in a great way, but in a way, it's better to have your identity questioned as a child rather than as an adult, because the child
Mm,
is much more humble in a way that
mm,
well, if this is wrong, maybe it can create some tension, it can create some suffering based on I don't belong, I don't fit in, like you mentioned, Okay, I will look for it. And when you're an adult, you have this belief. More likely, you are more likely to have this belief that, well, I'm an adult, then I know everything, and I know who I am. Of course, I know who I am. I am 40 years old. I am 50 years old. I know my
Yeah,
identity. I know where I'm coming from. I'm proud of being Canadian, or I'm proud
yeah,
of being a man. And and if somebody questions that identity, he is a big enemy.
yeah.
And so,
I don't look at people like as enemies that way anymore because
yeah, and
everyone's
maybe,
just scared.
just maybe because you did that work as a child
I
or
think.
as a teenager.
I mean, I didn't realize I was doing that work at the
Of
time,
course,
but
of course.
definitely the special education. And then, sorry, I didn't mention that when my parents got divorced or separated, and my mother left, and I felt abandoned when she left. I had a real like abandonment issue. Um, so it was a lot of emotional suffering from kind of mid teenage years to mid 20s. I had a lot of emotional distress or anxiety or depression or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah,
I would say that
that,
helped open things up for me the way I see things
mhm,
now.
yeah, sure. And because how much would you agree with the statement that suffering, all suffering, is caused by attaching your
100%.
identity to
Yeah.
concepts, to things, to experiences?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah.
And
Eh,
so once you learned that your attachment to certain beliefs,
mm,
uh, like you're not that attached anymore, and so like you mentioned, that's a superpower in your adulthood,
mm.
because whatever can happen, you're already, you are more adaptable. You know how to deal with that sort of um, danger.
Yeah, I would say I'm more equipped now. I still get anxious. I still feel
Hmm.
depressed sometimes,
Sure.
but the time period or the window of time that it lasts
Absolutely.
for is much shorter now because
Hmm.
I snap out of it faster. I'm able to
Yeah.
wake up faster.
What is your time, let's say, period of you being caught up in your attachments these days? Is it a matter
Mm.
of seconds, minutes, days, weeks?
Sometimes seconds, sometimes weeks. It actually
Mm-hmm.
depends on what it is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think a lot of it is physic. Like I feel like I've been experiencing, and I don't know if this is anything to do with consciousness, physical anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if I can give you my perception of what I think we are all one collective consciousness. You and me and everybody around us, all the good people, all the bad people, everything. I think somehow, as far as the concept of God, that we are all one collective, we are all God fragmented into all of these life experiences so that God could experience itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
A stream of consciousness that was put into all these different bodies and life forms to experience itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think sometimes the world is dealing with some sort of anxiety or physical energy, like an energetic shift.
Mm-hmm.
You have some people right now talking about that we are entering a new earth where we will it will be more from love and it will be less about money and consumerism.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also have another group of people that still very much believe in money and
Yeah.
work and the construct of how society is designed. We go to work and the construct of, let's call it the matrix, but I'm not saying
Sure.
that we necessarily live
Sure.
in a matrix or not, but let's just call it the matrix of some sort
Mm-hmm.
where we're programmed to live in a certain way. And now there's a new rising of energy on the earth that is waking people up to what we are talking about, where we start to realize that there is more to this reality than waking up and going to work or waking up and going to school. There is something that we are divine beings that are here to have some sort of beautiful experience.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I think that more and more people are starting to wake up to that understanding that life is
I
more than what we thought it was.
hmm I would definitely agree with the last sentence you said. However, if I take your whole mm, like 3 minute speech or so, um, that would be example of something we talked about before. That
I remember, yeah.
your language is not my language,
Right.
but I would like and so I don't see the world in that words more like in that concepts and so on. But again, I'm listening to you uh, in a curious and open way. And even though I express my vision of the world differently, it's not like I want to fight
No.
over
Yeah. So
fight with you over, I use different words. I like what explain this concept to me, this is
but
wrong what you said,
what is your vision like of like so I was explaining mine is like fragments of God. What is
I
your
understand.
vision of
and,
reality?
and
What is yours?
basic my way of expressing things is more agnostic, I would say, in a way that I don't understand this concept in a way. I could say, I'm like, as much as possible I want to use words that can help me focus on what I want to do, basically, like,
Hmm.
what is in my control, what is my next step, and so on. And are we God in a fragmented way? Well, that's one way of expressing that. That's not my way of expressing that. But I kind of see what you're saying, and it's not like it's against me or something like this. It's like I don't even know what God means, basically.
So when you say agnostic, is that the you don't know whether God exists or doesn't exist, correct? You're not atheist. You're not saying that there is no God, but you're not saying there is a
I
God. You're
I
not you don't know.
I was referring like more in general terms, like in terms of like, what is the world and so on. That I don't know how to describe it. I don't know. Like, I don't know is my favorite answer to most questions, most deep questions.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, for
in terms
sure.
of believing in God, I would say I'm an atheist.
Okay,
But
well
it
that's
it,
the
it,
more,
it
yeah.
all it all depends on the definitions and so on. And what I'm
So when
yeah.
you die, do you believe that's it? That's the end of you and your consciousness, everything is gone, and that's you have this one life, and then you're gone, and then that's it.
I would go even further,
Hmm.
and I would I would say that the idea of me, the concept I, is an illusion of some sorts,
Hmm.
or 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 is an illusion of an illusion. Like I have the experience. There is something happening right now, right here, but I I am not capable of expressing it even close to perfection. Like,
Hmm.
there is like we are I like the phrase that we are like, prediction machines. We are, even the idea of present moment is an illusion, because the present moment just happened. It's not now like we are creating the very near future all the time, constantly. But the
Well, the
me
now is the
the me
now, now,
right
now, now,
now the
now.
me right now and the me from like, one nanosecond before are different eyes.
Versions of you.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And
But
in a
yeah.
way, I am confused. In a way, I'm confused in terms of like understanding this phenomenon of life, basically. But
But I think
I don't. Yeah.
time is a construct, though, isn't it? Like time is something that human beings created. The now that you talk about, the nanosecond now, there you are just being born. This is my belief. You are just being
Hmm.
born right now, and we are talking right now. And you were
Hmm.
also a teenager right now,
Mm-hmm.
and a 20-year-old and a 30-year-old, now.
Yeah.
What if this concept we have of time going from here to here, that's an illusion, and actually it's all happening right now, literally.
In a way, it's like I would say it's another way of expressing your reality, and even the vision of the future
Mm.
and your memory of the past are your experience, your current reality. So it is a way, and I understand your way of expressing reality. And what I was trying to say is that in a way, I am confused in terms of understanding this phenomenon. It's like all I have a strong conviction that is much bigger than I can comprehend in a way, you know? Like I'm not like I'm forced to be humble about it, if you know what I mean. That is
Well,
like
I think
it's
we have to be humble about it, right?
yeah, some people don't have to be. Some people
So
aren't.
yeah, I mean, when I say we are fragmented
Yeah, sure.
from a whole,
Mhm.
I will still humbly say to you, I could be wrong.
Of course. Of
I'm
course.
not rigidly holding on to that, but that is what I feel because I
Mhm.
feel like we have moments in our days where you feel connected to the people around you, and it
Mhm.
goes beyond physical,
Sure.
you know? And I feel like that's we are made of energy. I have to believe yeah, I don't know. It just resonates with me, the concept of being a collective consciousness, because I don't know. I guess I've just had too many moments in my life where I'm just like, where things are synchronicities or whatever, where
Mhm.
things
Mhm. Mhm.
happen, and I feel like we're all connected somehow.
Sure.
Like you think about someone calling you,
Mhm.
and then an hour later or 5 minutes later, they pick up the phone and they call you,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I was just thinking about you.
Yeah.
Like energetically connected beings. So if we are
Yeah.
not fragmented consciousness from one whole, we are
Mhm.
certainly in some way we are connected in some way energetically.
Sure. Absolutely. I understand that, and some sentences you say are resonating more, some are
Yeah,
less. But what I was trying to say is that like I like this phrase that it is above
my
pay
pay grade.
my pay grade. Yeah, it is above my pay grade to understand the universe fully,
Yeah, of
and
course.
this
And
like
likewise,
this
likewise.
this humble approach gives me a lot of peace, and I feel kind of liberated not to engage in the attempt to perfectly describe this phenomenon,
But
like
maybe you were lucky enough to not be born with obsessive compulsive disorder like myself, like OCD, if you've heard of the term OCD.
sure.
I can't stop myself from overanalyzing everything in my existence,
Hmm.
and that
Hmm.
could be a superpower, but it can
Hmm.
also be a terrible distress on your anxiety and stress level, because
Hmm.
it means I always want to know the fine detail about everything.
Sure. I would say mm, I would say that it's actually quite the opposite, in a way that I have dealt with like eating disorder, gambling addiction. I have a very compulsive personality. I
Yeah, I
would say
remember we have a similarity that way.
by default, by
Yeah,
genetics,
yeah.
by environment, by upbringing, and
Hmm.
to me, like I was curious about this stuff, about understanding, and I was born in a religious environment, so I had to question my beliefs. And I remember I was 12, 13, 14, and that was it, like that was in a way compulsive thinking, that this is wrong, this is wrong, like how to make sense out of it. And what you're describing, this desire to explain everything, is definitely part of my experience, in a way that it was so exhausting that I
It is
had to
exhausting.
somewhat, mm,
Detach.
like maybe not detached. This is not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say is that I had to deal with it in some sort of procedure. And for me, I like one of the I have many mm, liberating realizations in a way, even though it's very down to earth. Some are very basic conclusions, very basic statements. And one
Hmm.
of it is that, I was for many, many years, I had this belief that I am overthinking, that I am thinking too much, you know? And then at some point, maybe, I don't know, 7, 10 years, 5, 7, 10 years, maybe something like that, years ago, I realized it's not a matter of thinking too much. It's a matter of thinking with not enough quality of that thinking. And
Hmm.
as like these days, I think more than I used to, but it's like even something you started with this mm, like how you interpret things is what matters, not the things themselves, right? And so
Yeah.
I think for many many hours, and like I take a lot of pleasure from it. Like, oh, this is interesting, and that is interesting. Oh, this I don't want to think about it. And when I see um, it's a one-way street, or like there is nothing at the end. It's unlikely that I will reach a satisfying conclusion.
You
I
can't. You
just
can never get to the end.
yeah,
Yeah.
on some streets you can, some you can't,
Some, sorry,
and
some you
like
can. Yeah.
sure. So two examples. One example is like understanding the universe fully and perfectly.
Yeah. We can
It's
never get.
for
Yeah.
me it's an example of something where I'm unlikely to reach a conclusion, and so I decide, oh, I will just not drive towards this street
Yeah.
because I will not take the street because I have so many other streets that can be more satisfying for me. And another example is, for example, how to take care of my well-being, you know?
Hmm.
And there are many streets like satisfying relationships, working out, uh, sleep, nutrition, and these are perfectly fine directions where I can find satisfying answers. And that is, and I think about this stuff for many many hours. I look for, YouTube videos, podcasts where
Hmm.
when somebody can question my approach, for example, or they can keep me more grounded, you know. And so that's my approach in a way that I like to um, direct my thinking in appropriate way. You could say,
In the
yeah,
direction that you have control over is what you're saying, I
you
think.
could say, yeah, yeah.
Versus like when you start questioning about what is reality, there's nothing you can't really get to the end of that question.
In a way, well, yeah, you're right that I cannot get at the end of the question if I want to express my answer in words. However,
Right. That's what I mean. You
my
can feel
well,
it.
exactly, that's what that was something I was trying to say, that if we want to answer, if we want to find the best answer on what is reality, how to understand reality, what is me, I think the best thing we could do is shut up, close your eyes, and just be.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
And that
100%.
that would be the best answer I could come up with.
I mean, it's certainly you and I are both people who like the concept of meditation.
Mm.
I think in the times that I've meditated, like when I did Vipassana where we met,
Hmm.
which is a 10-day silent meditation retreat, I think I touched God on that retreat. And before that Vipassana, I did a 7-day silent retreat at a Buddhist temple also in Taiwan before I met you at the Vipassana. I think I touched God a little bit in that as well. And what I mean when I say touch God, I mean was able to get outside of myself or get out of my way and just experience being.
Mm.
And I
Yeah,
think maybe that's God to me is like being.
yeah, sure. Now it makes sense to me. Yeah,
When the ego drops away
sure,
and the coal disappears and I just become in the moment. Like
sure,
to me that's
sure.
kind of
Like,
it's that's feeling the universe. I don't know if it's understanding the universe, but it's feeling the universe.
absolutely. That resonates with me, even though I said I'm an atheist, then that idea of God
Yeah.
is close to me, you know? And so it depends who is coming with which concept and how we are defining it, you know? Because in that case, I wouldn't call myself an
But
atheist. But
let me ask you a
sure.
deep question that neither of us can have the answer to, but we can have ideas about it.
Mm-hmm.
For someone who says they're an atheist,
Mm-hmm.
how did we come to be this complex reality that we live in? You really think it's just by chance? I mean, that's what I would, those are the questions I will always pose to someone who's an atheist. You
Mm-hmm.
don't think we had some sort of creator that created us? I'm not saying the creator still exists,
Mm-hmm.
but at some point, was there like, is there no part of you that believes there could have been some kind of creator that put us here? I don't know if it's aliens. I don't know if it's God. I don't know if it's some single-celled organism, but even that is a miracle. Like, do you not believe there is something greater that created us? I don't know. That's what I would pose the question to someone who says they're an atheist.
Yeah, I my quick intuitional answer would be basically I don't know, and even defining
Right. Yeah.
by chance is
Yeah.
hard in that context. What does it mean by chance? You know, because even if you uh, perform a coin toss, you can call it by chance, but if you understand all the power in your hand and you know quantum physics and everything, like is it still by chance? What does it even mean by chance, you know? And so I don't know is perfectly acceptable answer for me. And like I mentioned before, that it is beyond my pay grade to understand. You know, I understand the cause and effect process, but I don't know what was the primary cause. And I cannot even comprehend if that is even possible that there was a first cause, because who created the first cause? Who caused the first cause? And
Yeah.
so
No,
on.
who created
And
God?
like
That's
it's
another.
so
That's the
much,
next question.
and I
Yeah.
and I agree that something bigger than my understanding of that must exist, or like maybe even the word exist is not correct,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there is something beyond me, beyond my understanding. And you know,
Yeah.
I don't know if, like, how could I know? Basically that's my answer, and
No, no, that's
I have no problem with not knowing.
no, that's a beautiful non answer if you know what I mean. Like because yeah, none of us really know.
Sure.
But this is me where I go down a lot of rabbit holes and watch lots of different types of videos and my brain is like, okay, God, there's the God from the Bible, there's
Mm-hmm.
the simulation theory.
Yeah.
There's, some people think the earth is flat, some people think
Sure.
the earth is round. Neil
Sure.
deGrasse Tyson said the earth is pear-shaped.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people think space is actually underwater. Some people think space is space, and
Mm-hmm.
some people like it goes on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And I know I agree with you. These are things out of our control. Unless I work for NASA or I'm friends with Elon Musk where I can get in a spaceship, I can never really look down and know the answer to about Earth or I'll never really know what is space because unless I get in a spaceship, I can't really quantify what is space. And unless I meet God, I can never know that that's actually that God exists. Like
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would agree with you in a more colorful way that I don't know either, but that I hypothesize that through my own experience from meditating and from synchronicities that there is a power that is greater than our understanding that exists
Mm-hmm.
that is magical, but that doesn't mean that that's God or not God.
Sure.
It
Yeah,
could be,
we're
you know,
and that is a beautiful way of showing that by not engaging in a fight where there is some sort of maybe not even disagreement, but we like difference in perspectives, we we came much closer together, you know, we calibrated the expression of our
Yeah, no,
perspectives.
I think we're probably on similar.
Yeah.
We're more similar than the way I'm speaking and the way you're speaking, but still, at the end of the day, I feel like this is too magical to be just nothing.
Yeah. Sure, sure. I'm very grateful for, like, not even anything like in particular, such as, this morning, for example, I had this thought in my mind, like on a morning walk with our dog, just like, it's autumn, fall in Poland, so the beautiful, um, you know, forest, would you say the leaves, Canadian leaves, the
The leaves
leaves, the
changing,
beautiful colors, and oh, that's nice. This is
beautiful.
phenomenal,
Yeah,
and I'm just grateful for that. I don't know how it happened. I'm grateful for this opportunity that we've met, and now we can communicate. You're in Taiwan, I am in Poland.
yeah, it's crazy.
Internet,
Yeah,
it's amazing, but and I don't have to understand the mechanics of how it works. I could probably understand it on a much better level, how connecting via internet and recording
yeah.
it and then publishing it works. Maybe I can not um, understand exactly how the world works, uh, but I'm still very grateful for that, and I'm fine with that.
Well, I think that's where you and I think exactly in alignment. I think gratitude, which
Mm,
I feel like we talked about that when I met up with you in Taiwan, that being in a state of gratitude has been
mm,
the greatest thing that I've
yeah,
received later in life. I
I
think I spent
remember.
many years of my life not being grateful, and I'm much more grateful for my wife and my children and my cat
Mm,
and
mm,
the house I live in and the job I have, and I just have so much more appreciation and gratitude for my day-to-day life
mm-hmm,
that I didn't have before, and I think that is one of the keys to happiness.
mm-hmm,
I don't know if that explains if there's a God or not a God, but it's definitely gratitude is definitely one of the most powerful ways to be successful in your life is to have
mm-hmm.
gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. And I have to say that, when we were starting to connect, like, I mean, today, this morning for me and afternoon for you, was, early morning in Poland. My wife was still sleeping, and even when you share that, I feel that after this conversation, when I go see her, I will. I am already feeling more grateful for her, and it's thanks to you as well, thanks to
I appreciate
words
that.
you're sharing and so on. So but that is leading me to probably my final question I have, um, because I wanted to ask, what in your current perspective are key components of a good life, but I want to connect it with gratitude, you mentioned, because a good life, like you mentioned, is like full of gratitude. So sure, like, even based on my realization that our conversation caused me to be more grateful for my family, right? And so there are days where we feel more gratitude or less gratitude, right? Right?
Agreed.
And I think it's a very important to analyze what factors are influencing that, right? And so my question for you is, what factors are crucial for you to feel more gratitude? Which is pretty much the same question as what are the key components of a good life, for Cole Fogle, uh,
Mm.
in 2025. Like, let's keep it down to earth, at least, as.
I mean, it's not the Blue Jays winning the World Series, although
Okay.
it would have been nice.
Yeah, it would be
It's
a
not.
factor, right?
It would have been a factor to my level of joy
Yeah.
today, the day that
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to you, but it
Sure.
wouldn't be an overall factor of what makes a good life.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think keeping some of my daily practices I think are very crucial
Mm-hmm.
to remembering to be grateful, because I think gratitude is something I don't think you're born with, or maybe you are born with gratitude, and then society, for some reason, makes you lose the importance of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Life, like going to school and work and all that. It's very easy to lose gratitude as you grow up.
Mm-hmm.
You get caught in like kind of the race to make money, or the race to find the perfect partner, or like you
Yeah.
get caught in a lot of in concepts that make you forget
Mm-hmm.
what you understood, what most children understand, which was being in the moment and enjoying the moment, you know? So I think some of my daily practices, when I keep up with them consistently, I am more grateful. When I connect with friends like you, like when I connect with people who are also trying to live in a loving way, like I reminded you of your wife when you got off this call. I think we need connecting with other people is important to me
Definitely.
to
Mm-hmm.
remembering to be grateful. But meditating daily, if I can remember, and there are days when I don't, but I would say 90% of the time I meditate every day. And I think on the days that I meditate, I'm more calm, I'm more mindful, and then I remember to be more grateful, and then I feel happier.
Mm-hmm.
Or walking through my pineapple hill near my house, I take my socks off and I put my feet down on the earth, and I think grounding is very beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
I think I try to journal on a daily basis, although I've been a little bit lazy about it lately. So it's been more like every 2 or 3 days I've been
Mm-hmm.
journaling, but I still keep up with it. But journaling and affirmations, so
Mm-hmm.
meditating, walking barefoot, journaling, doing breath work. I do Wim Hof pretty much every day. I do
Mm-hmm.
the Wim Hof breath work, technique. So if I do all of those every day, I'm in a more mindful, grateful state.
Mm.
But if I get caught up in the World Series on TV, or TV shows or movies, or I start doom scrolling,
Mm.
endless doom scrolling that I think we all do sometimes, or maybe more than we
Mm-hmm.
should, I get swept into what I will say is the matrix, and I forget about being present and being grateful. So I don't know if that does that answer your question.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for a reminder. You also have
Yeah,
it tattooed on your left hand, I believe.
yeah. Be present.
Be present. Yeah. I think that would be a great mm, point. Great conclusion. Stay present. I think
Very.
reminders
Yeah,
like that are a wonderful way of starting a day.
yeah,
That's why I try to live my days as well. Start
yeah,
with these reminders. Even it doesn't take much time. It's a matter of discipline on some level to just keep showing up, and then the gratitude will naturally flow from that. Hopefully, uh, yeah.
and I
So
was I was gonna say
yeah,
I look forward to seeing you on the other side of this life, where I can say I was right and there was something more than just this.
yep,
But until I cross over to that reality, which would be what we would call death, neither of us will know until we die, really. Do we just
absolutely,
become earth again, dirt in the ground, or do we become something more? Like, we
sure,
won't have the answer. Neither of us can know the answer to that until we're not alive anymore. But I look forward to seeing you in the afterlife and laughing about it.
absolutely. And my question would be if even if that happens, would we be us from now, or that would be different us?
I
It's
think
like
that the consciousness on some level would still be there enough
okay,
for us to know who we were.
sure, fair enough, fair
Even
enough.
if
So
we
so
appear,
some
even if
some
we
sort of
were, yeah,
memory, some sort of memory. Yeah,
something would still exist. Yeah,
yeah. All
I
right.
believe so. Yeah.
Let's find out, or find out by not finding out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All
And
right.
I was just going to say,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's the way I look at it. I'm not saying my way of looking at it is right and your way of looking at it is wrong, but my way of looking at it brings me a sense of peace that those that I've lost in my family both human and animal, I
Mm-hmm.
do believe I will be with them again.
Sure.
I do believe we will be in contact
Mm.
again, and that brings me a level of peace when I do lose someone that I love in
Mm-hmm.
both human and animal, that I will see those people again. That brings me a kind of peace. Now, could I be wrong? Yes, it's
Mm.
possible. I don't think I'm wrong, but I could be wrong.
I appreciate you sharing
Yeah.
that. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you very
Yeah, brother.
much. Uh, it was a pleasure for like it was a pleasure for me to reconnect with you, and I wish you all the best. Hopefully, we'll talk again soon, and have a wonderful rest of the day. Say hi to your family, and yeah, all the best.
All right. Much love, brother. Much love.
Thank you. Bye bye. Okay.